In this video, I'll be showing you the very basics of React authentication using Firebase. As you can see, we just got this login form here. I've already created an account. I'm just going to type in the credentials, and then it takes me to my profile page. I can sign out. I can go to the sign up page to create a new account. Click sign up. There you go, profile. But then if I sign out and I type something which isn't legitimate, it's going to display an error, failed to sign in. So stay tuned to find out how to do this. Okay, so this tutorial is about the authentication. So I've already got all the pages set up. We've got 3 routes. This is the default route, but it will display the user's email here, but obviously we haven't done it yet, so it's just displaying some placeholder text at the moment. The other route is login, where the user logs in, and the other route is sign up, where they actually sign in. And again, there's links at the bottom here, all using React Router document object model. So the way that it's done is we got on the main app component, we just got a router here, which links to a custom functional component called account handler, which we've got here. Inside that we've got a switch statement containing the 3 routes, and then these are what the 3 routes look like. Again, like I said, it's not just a React design tutorial. I'm gonna skip all the design part, skip straight to the authentication process. So obviously, to start the authentication process, we're going to project in Firebase. So I'll do it now. Okay, now the project's finished loading, so we're going to press continue on that. And first things first, go to authentication, click get started, and then we want to go email password, enable this. That's the authentication that we will be using, and then we need to connect to app, so we'll just call it whatever, register app. The name's not important, but the information that I provided is. Okay, so we got information here, and what we need to do is, because this is private information, we need to store them as environment variables. So we'll create a new file called .env, but obviously for the environment variables to work, you'll need to install the .env package like that, but I've already installed it, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so the naming convention for environment variables for React is React app in all capital snake case, and then we can do whatever we want after this. So we'll say Firebase API key, because that is the first field. Okay, now that that's done, we need to create a new file where we actually initialize the Firebase app. So we'll call it Firebase.js. And again, we'll need to install the Firebase package. So I've already installed it, so you'll need to enter that. So then we can actually import. We'll need to import 2 things. There's the first import, and then the second one will be there. Okay, now we need to initialize the Firebase app, so we do that like so. We'll copy the format from here, except we use the environment variables that we just created instead. So the way that we do it, all environment state variables are stored in the process.env object. and then it's just a name afterwards. So I'll copy all these over. Okay, and once that's done, we're going to export two things. First thing that we're going to export is the authentication from Firebase. Looks like that, and then we're just going to export app as a default export. Okay, and now we've successfully connected Firebase to application. Okay, and so the next step would be to create a global context, so our application has access to the user at all times. So we're going to create a new JavaScript file called authcontext.js. Okay, and the first thing that we're going to do in this file is we're going to import the auth object from the Firebase file that we just created. Once you've imported this, we need to import React so we can actually create the context. So we'll say we'll call it react.createContext, and then we're going to create a named export called auth provider. This will wrap its children in the context provider, so it will give all of its children the value of the context. So we've called the context auth context, and then inside will be the children. Obviously we haven't given the context a value yet, using its value property. So to create the value, we're going to store it in the state, so it gets updated properly. And then we're going to say and then we're going to store this in an object, which is going to be the value for the context. So I missed out the equals here. There you go. But obviously we can't do anything with this current user yet. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the signup function. Takes in 2 arguments. And it's going to return because it's a promise, because it's executed asynchronously. Create user with email and password. Now the problem with this is we haven't actually stored the created user in our current user state, which is up here. So to do that, we need to use useEffect hook, which will only obviously be activated. Well, at the moment it will be activated at the end of every render cycle, but we're going to set it so it only gets activated on component mount and demount by passing an empty argument as its second argument. And then we're going to say const unsubscribe equals auth on auth state change, and then user. This will be set in here. We'll set the current user to user, and then we'll actually return unsubscribe. Now the reason for this is, so basically on application start, Firebase will, if a user has been created, then current user will be initialized with the current user retrieved from Firebase. And then on application demount, it will return unsubscribe again, which will unauthenticate the user. Now obviously if we haven't created a user, or we're not currently signed in, then user will be uninitialized. But the problem is this is we don't actually want our application to load unless Firebase has done this process. So what we need to do, we need to create a new state, new loading stage. So it's going to be a boolean, because currently as soon as this gets initialized it will be set to true, but we want to set loading to false after it's actually retrieved the user. So that where application won't load until loading is false. And the way that we ensure that, we're going to put our entire application in between this auxiliary component. And it will only load when loading is false. But one more thing, we need to actually include the signup method, because otherwise our children won't be able to sign up. So application won't have access to the signup method. So we need to store that in the value object. And one more thing as well, because our children are wrapped inside the context provider, but they don't actually have access to the context, because to give children access to the context value, you need to use the use context hook, well, at least for functional components anyway. So we're going to create our own custom hook which gives our children access to the context value. So we'll create it here. Use context, the name of this, the name of this context here, so auth context. And now our children will be able to have access to value, which is this object here, which contains the current user and the signup method. And later on it will contain all the other methods like logout and login as well. Okay, so now we need to wrap our entire application into this context. So we need to import it. Import auth provider, not use auth, because that's for giving the children values, but this is the actual context itself, because it returns the provider. Now because it's a named import, we import with curly braces. And then what we want to wrap our entire application in the auth provider. So now the account handler component, it now won't be rendered until loading is false. So until Firebase has either retrieved the user or it's just checked to see if there was a user and there wasn't. So obviously children is now the account handler component basically, which contains all the roots for our components. Okay, and because we created the signup function here, we're gonna do the signup component first, which this gets rendered on the signup boot. So first thing that we need to do is we need to import our custom hook, so we have access to the signup function from the context. So import it like that, and then this is the submit event handler basically. What we need to do now is we need to extract that method, so we'll say signup from useauth, signup from equals it's object destructuring. It's called signup because that's, again, we call it signup here, and that's how object destructuring works. And what we want to do now is we want to actually create any errors. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to create an error state object. Currently set it to be an empty string. Obviously that's not working at the moment because we haven't imported useState. And then we're going to say if password ref, again I've created reference to all these, so all the text inputs here. So if password ref dot current dot value is not equal to the password confirmation ref. So obviously it is not matching basically. We're gonna return because we want to exit out of the event handler. Passwords do not match, which obviously the corresponding error because they don't match. But obviously, so if they do match, then we're going to continue with the signup process. We're going to do that in a try block. And then in the catch, obviously if there has been error, we're just going to say failed to create account. And then in the try block, first thing that we're going to do is we're going to set error. So we're going to clear any errors that you might have previously had. first. And then what we need to do now is we need to do the actual sign up process. We're going to pass in the email ref. Because remember it took an email and password. And we're going to input the email and password that they've actually typed into the boxes. Okay, so the problem with this is, remember sign up returns a promise, as you can see. This is done asynchronously, so it won't be done immediately. So what we need to do is we need to actually convert this event handler into async, and we need to create another state object called loading, which currently is equal to false, because obviously they haven't clicked sign up yet. We'll set it to equal true once this event handler is started. So before the sign up process begins. So true, and then we're going to await for this promise, and then below we're going to say set loading false because it's completed now, even if there's an error. And then here we're going to say disabled will be loading, so it will be grayed out basically during the loading process. One more thing that we want to redirect the user to the dashboard once they've created their account. We need to import use history from React Router DOM. And then we're going to say assign that to a variable called history, and then we're going to say history push, that's just the default way to push them there. So once they finish creating their account, they'll be redirected basically to the default, to the homepage route. Okay, the last thing that we need to do now is we need to actually display the error, if there has been an error, because obviously we stored this error state object, but we haven't actually got a way to display it. So what I've done is I've already created a class for the error. I'll just show you now. This is placeholder, obviously. We're going to display the actual error in a second. But it's called error text. I'll just show you. Okay, so I've actually got a problem with my API keys. I'm just going to get rid of the environment variable and copy in the string, which I got from here. I don't know why it's not working, but yeah, so now it's worked, yes. So here's what the error message looks like, but obviously we want to display the actual error message, and we only want to display this div if that actually is an error. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to copy this into here. Set it to display the error. It's the value that's held in the state here, and so only if error is initialized with value will this be displayed basically. So currently it won't be displayed because we haven't actually done anything. But what we will do now is we will actually test out the sign up process. So currently, if I go to authentication, no users yet. So we'll just say 123@gmail.com, password, give me password. Again, type in password. Actually, first things first, we're going to type in something random. So passwords do not match. Yeah, but now we're going to type in an actual matching password, like that. Yeah, so we've been redirected to the homepage route now, and let's see. Yeah, so it's been created. Okay, so the first step's done now. Okay, now what we've got to do is we've got to actually create the login and logout methods. So we'll go back to our context, file, and then we're going to say function login, email, password, same as before, or same arguments anyway. Auth.signin with email and password. Will be the promise that we're returning. Whoops, turns out we typed that in wrong. And then the function logout will be a lot simpler. It will literally just be auth.signout, and now we want our application to have access to these methods, so we'll put them in the value of the context. So login, logout, Okay, now we're going to go to the login route. We're going to copy a lot of the code that we've done here. So first of all, yeah, we'll just copy this actually for the moment. We'll see how much of it we need. Obviously, we need to import the necessary content. So we need to import the context first, and then obviously and use state as well from React. Here we're going to get rid of that because there's only one password text input in this case, and then we're going to change that to failed sign in. Okay, we've got duplicate there. Button, again, that will be disabled. Unloading, and then again with the error, we're going to display the error, which will be a different error now. It'll be failed to sign in instead of failed to create an account. And what we need to do as well, we need to change this. Instead of the sign up method, we're not signing up here, we're logging in. So it'll be login, which relates to this method here. And again, we need to change this now. It still takes in the email and password reference because it still has the same arguments, and it's still going to push. Well, we want them to push it to the dashboard actually. Yeah, this is fine. So we need to do the dashboard now. The thing that it's going to be pushed, the thing that we're going to be redirected to once we've logged into our account. It's going to display the email basically and allow them to log out. So again, what we need to do here is very simple. First of all, we're just going to copy all this. Because we need to copy all the imports as well, which is tedious, but we are going to get rid of some of this as well. First of all, we don't need link, because there's no link on this page. And function login, yeah, so that needs to be, so it's not function login. I mean, there's no references either. And we'll also need, as well, we'll need the logout method, but we'll also need the current user. So how else are we going to display the user's email? History, it's not going to read it. Oh wait, history, yeah, so we will actually include that, because we want them to basically, when they press log out, we're going to redirect them back into the login page. And then we're going to change the error to fail to log out. Oh, we're not going to include loading in this case actually, because it doesn't, this one, it's not really, it doesn't take a while. So literally we're just going to, yeah, literally all we're going to do is await the logout method, and in history.push they'll be redirected back to login. But this is still problematic though, because we don't want them to see this page unless they have actually logged in. But currently this page is set to render on the default route, which means that they can access it even if they haven't logged in. And obviously the way this page works is it displays the current user's email, which we do down here. So you do current user.email. So when we actually go on the page, yeah, so it should say 123@gmail.com. But obviously if they haven't logged in or created an account, then this is going to be nothing. So we don't want them to have access to this route. So what we do is we go back to this page with the switch statement and all the routes, and we need to import the current user from our context. So import user from auth context, and then extract the current user, and then for this we're going to say only render this route if current user has been initialized, so if there is currently a user. Else we're going to say, we're going to import a redirect, and then redirect from default route to, we're going to redirect them to login. So they try and access this page when they don't have an account, and they'll just be instantly redirected back to login. So we click sign out there. So if we try and access the default route now, they're not going to get dashboard because we currently don't have an email created. So log in, we're going to type in something which hasn't been created. yeah, failed to sign in, because obviously this isn't even a real, it's not even a real account. If we do a real account, log in, and then sign out, and then we go back to the default route, but we can't access dashboard. If we log back in again, and we go to the default route, yep, again, we'll be redirected to profile. So I hope this makes sense for you. Again, this is fairly basic. I didn't mess around with UI or anything like that. I just expect that you already know that. But obviously you need to watch other tutorials made by other people if you don't understand how to make a basic React UI. Yeah, and I hope this helped. Again, if you have any comments or queries, then be sure to post them in the comments box below, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And I hope this helped. Peace out, guys. Okay, I love you all.